the FIIO FT7 Planar headphones. FIIO is a company I am very familiar with. I've owned their products in the past, such as the M11 Pro DAP, but I've never worked with them directly. And having met them a few times through Munich High End and London CanJam, they said, why don't we start by sending this unit for review, the FT7, and then we can go from there in regards to us working together and sending units in for assessment for ConvinceMeAudio. So I said, sure thing, why not? This planar headphone looks interesting. The box looks nice. Why don't we begin? Hi, I'm Audeze. Welcome to ConvinceMeAudio. FIIO is putting their best foot forward with this planar, very large driver headphone. Let's take a look together. Again, a special thank you goes out to FIIO for sending this unit in for review and assessment. And as always, everything in regards to this review is my own impressions. I haven't signed anything, I haven't accepted any money, and I honestly don't care what manufacturers think. What matters here is my opinion, because apparently that's what you guys are here for, and that's what I'm going to give to you. My job is not to advertise for manufacturers, but give you an educated and an educational video, in-depth analysis of audio equipment. Let's begin with that disclaimer out of the way. I just resealed the headphone by accident. So, it comes in a dual box. So this one is more of a very nice material skin for the box itself. Is this cardboard? Feels a bit plasticky. Very nice. All right. You go over there. It's completely redundant. It's got some nice writing on it. This is the box itself. It's quite hefty for $700. Oh, let me move the B and C cables from... Who are you from? These are the Storm from Nick Bacon. I was actually testing the AIC10 Riviera and the Meta Absolute earlier with the server, and that was in the way. So, be that as it may. Very, very nice BNC cables, by the way. You could probably garrote a sperm whale with it. This box is very nicely constructed. I like this. Ooh, flight case. And then inside the box, we also get a booklet telling us what the headphones are all about. And then nestled inside here, we get a pair of very, very veloury, velvety pads. I like it. The underside of the pads, I like this. So this reminds me of the Focal Utopia and Focal Stellia. They are a wedged sort of design. Yes, very, very subtle wedge. Not only that, you've got this velour on the inside and this sort of breathable material on the outside. The pads stick onto the baffle with these little grooves and it just clicks into place. I like that a lot. I'm so glad it's not the whole putting a nappy on a baby type of scenario. This is a nice flight case, in reminiscent of the Meze audio stuff. And who else did I see a side angle bag like this for? It's over there. Oh, that's it. AUNE SR007 review. Incidentally, the AUNE SR007 is a closed back variant, same price as this review here. Inside the bag, we get a couple of interesting things. Thank you for this. Probably this is the most useful thing, even more than the headphones for ConvinceMeAudio on the studio. Let me show you. So we have a 4.4 to a 4-pin XLR adapter without any wires. This honestly has come more useful than anything else around. This other one is Pentacon 4.4 to 6.3, or it might be 3.5. I really can't tell. The adapters are exceptional. I really, really like this. Very nice. Here we have the headphones. Here we have the pads. And here we have the two accessories inside these very, very nice elasticated bits. Is that all? Ah, we've got a cable. All right, this cable. There's a lot to say about this, so let me get the box out of the way. We don't need this carrying case. Nice zip. Yeah. I dig this. Very, very nice. This cable is very long. Pentacon 4.4, and it's 3.5 5 at the headphone end. Fantastic stuff. Reminds me of the old Sennheiser cables. It's very heavy. Extraordinarily long. This is definitely a desktop cable. It's good for me because I've got a pair of racks behind me. But to run this at the desk, this is, I would say, 9 to 12 feet. This is a long ass cable. Very, very good construction actually as well. It doesn't really keep its shape, but it's a little bit stiff and it's a little bit heavy. So please bear that in mind. This has got some interesting properties. This cable is a liquid nitrogen frozen monocrystalline copper cable. That's quite a mouthful. Don't know if it was put into hibernation or not, but yeah. All right, I'll take your word for it. Let's look at this. This is what you're here for. Adapters are interesting, pads are interesting. Let's look at this. So this is the headphones themselves. This is a planar headphone, dual-sided magnet, 106mm driver. These are huge. Not only that, but there is a patented design for gold and silver tracing on the driver, which is really interesting, I think. And then we've got the pad swapping scenario where this just pries off like that and could put it back on like that. I like that a lot. Carbon fiber is used for this headphone and it's very big. This is designed for very, very large heads. Honestly, like when you extend this to its maximum capacity, that is for a big noggin. So big heads, you're good to go. The headphone is about 425 grams. Full specifications scrolling down the screen here for you. It's nicely constructed. I wouldn't say it's very elegant, but I would say it's nicely constructed, but it could do with some refinement. And here are the tips I would pass on to FIIO. One of those being, you do not need such a big construction. I think the headphone could be a little bit slimmer and smaller in its headband construction, because by the time a normal sized head is actually setting up the clicking mechanism here, which I'm going to get to in a second, you got this huge handle up top. I mean, it could be a little bit more elegant, but it's not bad. Rather this than the headphone not fitting on your head. The clicky mechanism is not that great. This is very stiff, but it doesn't really click into places like with a satisfying clunk, for example, like the Diana MR or something, but it definitely gives you a nice range of motion for maneuverability and adjustment. So that aspect of it is pretty fine. It could do with a little bit more refinement, so it's a little bit smoother, a little bit more clicky. I like the fact that they've put this indentation here so that you could click it down, but because it's so stiff you can't actually make use of it, so bear that in mind, FIIO, for the next one. But be that as it may, coming down to the bottom of the unit, this is a zebra wood. It looks like a very large grill. It's very, very nice. It reminds me of the Sesvaras and the LCD5 a little bit, but much, much larger than the LCD5. And then the actual termination entry point for the 3.5, which looks like mini XLRs, are here, but they're 3.5. They're on the outside. So let me know in the comment section. Do you like an innie belly button or an outie belly button? Pretty much here. These are the outie ones. Ideally, you would want to place this connection inside the baffle itself so that it just becomes a little bit slimmer, etc. But by actually having them on the outside, the cable sits a bit further back. So it's possibility could hit your traps here or your shoulders. And for this, you get roughly that much, which is about 1.5 centimeters of hanging cable and adapter. It's very clicky. It's very nicely constructed. Not too much to complain about. The headband doesn't smell like real leather, but it's very comfortable, very, very plush for these types of headbands. You've got this sort of foam material underneath, and it's actually a very comfortable headphone. I've worn this for a couple of hours at a time without any issues whatsoever. It's a very large headphone, like I stated, and it sits on the head like so. So for me, I am almost like 2 clicks from the bottom. So it's a very big headphone for my head, as it were. So that's the perfect size, like so. That's the cable. That's the pads. These are the adapters. This is the headphone. Let's talk about the sound. Here is where this adapter comes extraordinarily handy. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So 4.4. Honestly, I think more manufacturers need to do this. No dangly wires. Click and you're good to go. That's the headphone part that makes me extremely happy. That's the Imanis, can be put onto the AIC10 Riviera by my feet. We can check that out in a second with a Wave Dream signature. Okay, what systems are we running? Right now, I've put this on the XW1X DAC 2 next to me. That's in for review, the tube DAC, and also my own reference WA33 JPS Elite. So let's have a quick butchers and see what we got. Like I mentioned, this is a very, very large planar, and it's not very easy to drive, but not extremely hard to drive either. Full specifications here, sensitivity and impedance. This 106mm driver really does show the fact that it's a big driver. This is a very big, open, wide and tall planar, very much in the reminiscent of the HiFiMan HE1000 SE. Yet where that is neutral, bright, this is warm-ish, soft and gentle. Where that is sharp to the ears, for me, I could never tolerate that headphone. It was like ear bleed for me. This is a relaxing listen all day long, but it does sacrifice some macro detail and micro detail and some percept resolution for the tuning that they have gone for with the leather pads. It smells like the gym. This headphone is predominantly excellent for jazz, slow classical music, pop, folk, acoustic, live. I wouldn't say this is a exponentially good headphone for electronic music. It's a little bit slow. So the tension on the driver doesn't seem to be overly tightened. So we've got some loose tension on the driver itself. This actually leads to a very long decay and leads to a more gentle resonating note per note in the melody. By that I mean it doesn't go bam, slap, snap, for example, like the HiFiMan Sesvara Unveiled. This is very much a methodical, slow blues type of sound. If I can convey to you that genre of music to the sound you get with this headphone, this is a very relaxing listen. This is the sort of headphone that will not get in the way when you are listening in an office whilst you're working or during work hours. For those of you who get fatigued by treble very easily, this is a headphone for you. In fact, actually, it sort of takes some cues from the tungsten, single-sided tungsten, a little bit, not by much. I don't think it's as technical, but it's definitely a spectacular technical headphone for this category of $700. In fact, this is actually quite surprising. I think the nearest headphone it comes to for me is the Aer Organic, but with much bigger stage. And I think Aer Organic had a little bit more detail than this. The bass response on this in around 20 Hertz does tail off. So you tails off around 25 to 30 Hertz. The upper sub bass is very prominent, very articulate and methodical and very melodic. But when you start getting the slam, when it comes to about 20 Hertz, you do get a note, obviously. It doesn't just cut it off, but it can't sustain the vibration and the weight behind it, so therefore it does roll off a fair bit. Mid bass is quite punchy. It's not bad at all. It gives a nice weight to the kick drum, and I think the special thing about this headphone is how melodic it is. They've gone for tuning and musical more than technicality and resolution and ultra hyper detail here. I think it's a pleasant listen. I don't think it's a good idea pairing this with very warm sources. Something like the 33 JPS Elite with the Takusaki tubes. Obviously, I am talking about a crazy setup over there, but I wanted to see where these drivers can go. It seems to be a nice balance. This was very nice on the Riviera Levante on the other rack, where texture, tactility, and tonal balance is the key. This is where it shines more than, for example, hyper detail, hyper resolution, and hyper quick drivers, for example, like a Focal Stellia or Utopia. It's a very good effort. It's a very good effort. It's a jazz lover's forte, I would say. It's a beautiful folk song forte. Vocals are very large and present. Stage is very big on this headphone. In fact, it just sounds freaking huge. Instruments sound huge as well. Queen, Who Wants to Live Forever, I think that's the name of the track, sounds enormous. Mr. Mercury is all the way over there. all the way on the stage. I am in the auditorium halfway in the arena. It's very airy up top, very, very open, a warm, gentle sound. It honestly reminds me of the DAC we reviewed not that long ago, the Lampezzata Poseidon, where its tonal balance, tactility and texture is the main focus. And it's got enough detail to sound realistic, but they're not concentrating on that too much. They're concentrating on you enjoying your music. And I think it does a very, very good job here. Like right now, he's so far away. It absolutely loves those resonating notes that wants to sustain and trail away. Due to the lower tension of the driver, it manages to sustain that decay and delay without cutting it off like a BA driver, for example, in an IEM, where you have time to appreciate every note and resonance of this headphone. It's lovely. Okay, what are some of the downsides? I think some of the downsides is I've seen better built headphones in this category. I would give, the materials are very nice. I think the actual sort of drawing the lines a little bit could be etched a little bit better and a little bit, I think in the next iteration, they're going to do a good job. Like really just making this a little bit smaller, a little bit more focused, slimline, etc. For example, Meze line of headphones, the 109, 105, Air 105 Silver, etc. They're absolutely built like they're worth that kind of money. This is doing a very, very good job. But I have seen competition is fierce for the build quality, okay? What does these pads do? This pad actually changes the tonality very, very much. It changes it to a less warm, less tonally dense and thick sound, less colored mid-range, and it gives you more of a reference linear sound. Though to be fair, I think it sounds a little bit more dry, a little bit cooler, a little bit less authority in the bass. It's a bit more gentle, but it's more of a, okay, it was slightly warm, now it's slightly cooler sound. And you sort of lose the love a little bit, and you lose a little bit of that texture and tactility. Some people might prefer that. For electronic music, I think this will do a better job, but it just loses the actual tonal density that you might want to have, where, for example, you want that slam and that deep bass and that bottomless reach. But like I mentioned, this is more of a real music headphone, for example, versus electronic genre type of music. This is going up against the 105 Air. This is going up against the SP2 Pro. I think this has probably the best tuning out of all of those with these leather pads. I think I'm going to say that. I think the 105 Air is very, very close. Probably better dynamics. The dynamics is on this is okay. It's okay. I think that has higher dynamics, but I think this headphone overall is a better performer. It's a proper large planar, and I think it does a very, very good job. Well done, FIIO. This headphone is a very good addition to this $500 to $700 mark. I think it is out-resolved and outperformed by the AUNE SR7000, but this beats it for tonal density and weight. But otherwise, yes, I think that is a headphone that is a little bit higher in the criteria of detail retrieval and resolution, but for a large sounding headphone that is gentle and warm and kind to the music, it's very kind to the music, I would probably choose this. Sometimes it can come across a little bloomy, but it depends on the genre of music, but I didn't get that too often. It's very kind to badly mastered tracks as well. So let's do the scores. Build quality. I would give this, I think, 3.5 tigers out of 5. Comfort, 4 tigers out of 5. Sound quality, 4 tigers out of 5. Value for money, 4 tigers out of 5. Well done, FIIO. This is a very, very good headphone. It might not be for everybody, especially those who listen to electronic music and want high transients and slam, but for those of you who want a nice relaxing listen, especially for work and stuff, and a comfortable headphone, FIIO FT7. If you like reviews such as these, consider joining Patreon, where you get early access to reviews, you get to jump into the private Telegram chat, speak to me in person, ask advice, system builds, anything that takes your fancy when it comes to audio. Otherwise, your like, your share, and a comment or two down below is all I require from you. Let me know if you've heard this headphone. What do you think? Let's have a discussion down there. I'll see you very, very soon. Peace.